Alright, me again. That's right, making another video. Sorry, extra noise. My video card is also crapped out. Power went out the other night and I actually left the computer off for the night. And the card has always had a problem where if the room temperature gets too cold, the card fucks up, which is a really weird problem. But anyway, so it wouldn't reboot the card. So I'm back using an old, really old video card. So we'll see how long that lasts. So if I disappear for a while, it's probably just the video card. So I gotta figure out a new backup. But anyway, last backup, last emergency procedure. Anyway, where was I? So we're going to talk about rights and responsibilities and freedom. Yep, freedom and responsibility. This weird, duality. Remy, I was kind of arguing with him Friday night, and I was kind of surprised, him being more of the libertarian leanings than I am, for sure, that he was just totally appalled at the concept that people who desire a freedom or want the freedom should have to pay for that freedom, the downside risk that the freedom creates. I suggested, like, gun owners probably should be responsible for irresponsible gun owners. Somebody who's a pancake eater and doesn't own a gun but likes pancakes, sitting in their living room or, well, their kitchen eating pancakes, shouldn't be paying for the liability of gun ownership if they have no desire to own a gun. It should be the responsibility of the gun owners. And then maybe the gun owners will push for legislation to oblige more responsibility in gun ownership if they actually have to pay the freight for the social liability. This sort of relates to the whole concept of bankruptcy, irresponsible behavior, and the fact that there should be real accountability, not fake accountability. And people should be responsible where it's practical for their own choices. That sounds very libertarian, and it's just kind of funny when the libertarian types reject that concept, I guess, when, they might have to pay for some of their freedoms. But so it sort of goes to all things. If you drive a car for luxury or, not in business purposes, why shouldn't you pay the freight? If you're a business and you, instead of creating, putting your business in a location where you're close to your labor force, why should basically the society subsidize transporting your workers to the business? It's just an idea of associating behavior with the real price of the behavior. So I also use the examples of, like, mountain climbers. Maybe there should be a tax on mountain climbing equipment commensurate with what it costs society to every now and then have to go search for them and dig up their bodies and bring them back to civilization. It's not, why should it be my liability? If somebody wants to bungee jump or jump out of airplanes and somebody gets killed and there's not proper insurance or something else, and it ends up being society that pays the price for that to clean up the mess, so to speak, why not make all those costs part of the deal? So I've made this argument with inheritance also, that we have this system now where if people make huge profits with their risk-taking, they're able to pass on those profits to the next generation. But if they get caught, in their risk-taking, and all of a sudden, because they didn't spend a few extra dimes, and they end up killing 1,000 people in another country in a chemical plant or something, why is that liability end up being a social responsibility? Why is that one, because they decide to go, they say, we're bankrupt. The company's bankrupt. You can't pay the bill. Or some other kind of bullshit like that. Why should it be a social responsibility, a social liability, when the behavior is completely their own. So we can also take this to like alcohol and reasonably say that let's assess what the social cost is for having liquories on the corner, places where people can go and publicly drink, and then they go out on the road and kill people. Why shouldn't that social cost be paid by the people who want the freedom to go to public liquories? So make it a tax on drinking in public. You know, I don't see any horrible crime in making people responsible for their behavior, and more specifically, making people pay for freedoms that come with a price. I mean, that sort of is the way it works. I mean, I've argued that freedom is a fake word, that the real word is responsibility, and freedom is what you have left over when you've satisfied your responsibilities. And so I don't really see any inconsistency in taking that to practical extremes. Obviously you can't measure every consequence. You can't blame every individual exercises liberty for the abuses of others, but we certainly can on the obvious extremes. And I guess that's where this gets, like every other argument, gets kind of annoying, is because people keep bending the rules, breaking the rules in argument when it's to their convenience. They'll argue principle when it's on their side, and they'll argue practicality when it's to their advantage. And it's just such bullshit. It's like anything else. It's you know you can do better than, crazy ass socialism, communism, and you know you can do better than stupid, crazy ass all the way capitalism. But when it's to somebody's advantage, they'll just pull out the rhetoric, the extreme rhetoric, and not be pragmatic. And it's just stupid. And this argument's the same thing. I mean, we don't have to individualize every single cost of every individual. We can have some freedoms that the society in general embraces, but there's nothing wrong with having as an intent creating a system where if you, through your lifestyle, create the necessity for some social mechanism to exist, some regulation or like pet ownership, it creates the liability of homeless pets, and so who should pay for that liability? Should it be pet owners or people who don't own pets? I mean, it's just a simple question. I mean, it all comes down to also having kids. If you decide to have kids, why should it be your neighbor's responsibility to raise them? Why should they pay the freight? Because you're going to extort them? That's what it comes down to. You can say, well, if you don't pay for it, I won't do it. And so therefore, the kid will be harmed. And so you'll force them to do it just to protect the child. That's what it comes down to. You're not voluntarily saying, I can't handle the whole responsibility of properly caring for and educating my child, and therefore I want you to do it. You're not asking them for the money, you're taking the money. You're saying somebody who has no interest in having children has some responsibility to pay for your interest in having children. Well, that's just bullshit. So anyway, like I said, theoretically, this covers a lot of ground. But it doesn't have to be, like I said, some people just come back with extreme arguments. Well, you're going to pay for every time you exercise your free speech. No, you don't have to tax free speech. But there are things that are already being taxed. There's already some system in place where there's some attempt to make risk-taking real, and you just take that to a more logical balance. So, not the best articulation on the subject, but what do you want? It's Monday. That'll be my excuse. It's fucking Monday. Not that it matters a lot, but, it is a Monday. Anyway, till next time.